Everybody, good morning.
Morning.
Good
In the
morning.
room, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning. All right, so we got a fun-filled day. And so we're going to skip the normal pleasantries with Tell Me Something Good. And we're going to go straight into some upcoming events. Let me share my screen. So upcoming, we will not be meeting online or in person here next week. Sad face, it's okay. We're going to be at Placer County Association of Realtors, and we're going to be flying in Jeff and Amanda Whitesphere. I believe they sold like 700 houses last year, so they're succeeding at a very high level, and they're going to teach us about how to crush internet lead generation. So if you haven't got your ticket already, go ahead, sign up. I believe are we almost sold out, Rob, or do we have tickets
For this one?
Yeah,
we're good.
okay.
Yeah, I think we're around 200. We can sell for you.
Okay, yeah, so go ahead and sign up, get your ticket, get your spot. Same day, just later in the evening, is the mix and mingle. We have, as of this morning, close to 500 signups. So it's gonna be a fun time. Yeah, so it's a little bit later, but you get to kind of let your hair down. You'll learn about lead generation in the AM, and then in the PM, you get to go out and network with some local. Sure, what's up, Hermes?
Where do I find the link?
Just go to Eventbrite and search for which event.
The first one.
Everything's on brentgove.com, upcoming events.
Yep, brentgove.com. Hi, Amanda. Doing well. All right. So any other questions on the events? If nothing, all right. Rodney, you mind giving us a quick lender update?
Sure. Good morning. The rate gods are loving us in the real estate business today because rates are starting to fall even more. And now we're getting out of the sort of holiday season. The weather is showing signs of cleaning up and shining on us. And that's exactly what they're doing with rates. So we are flirting with the high fives. We keep bouncing. We've been getting there. And then it kind of like every Thursday, it seems like it's been a great day. And then Friday and over the weekend, it kind of bounces back up a little bit. I think we're finally going to start trending and seeing the high fives, which is awesome. Because if you heard me before, 5.31 was kind of the break point that changed the market as far as affordability. And so we're entering into the fives. And I'm hearing the buzz, you guys probably heard it too, that I think we maybe bottomed out, and not just here, other parts of the country as well on pricing. And so that's adding, more buyers to our market. We're a hot market here as well. So I guess my message of the day is now more important than ever. If you've listened to some of the stuff I've shared, strategies and structures, it's not just that we're hitting the 5% range in the markets of rates, is use the money that's on the table now from the sellers, right? They're all trying to do that and apply it to the financing to get your buyer into the house, whether it be a permanent buy down or a temporary buy down, or just a loan to get into the deal to whatever, but have a strategy for the next step for them that they're comfortable to get them off the fence. Because literally, the 2-1 temporary buy down scenario, which will get them into the fixed rate when that's coming in the fours in the next 12 months, maybe. And my projection is that you could get somebody into the threes right now, right? The 3% fixed rates with that temporary buy down. So they have to qualify today's interest rate, but that gives them a long running time frame to get comfortable and then get into that. So there's lots of strategies, as we went over last week, and structures and different programs that you really need to work with your loan officer to get your buyer qualified. And because a lot of the people that are left on the table at the moment, buyers seem to be having some issues. They're not the cookie cutter clean ones. Those are awesome and great to have, but so you need these extra programs to kind of do it. So the market's great. Now's the time to do the strategies and structures. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So just to tack on one last thing to that is Bill Pipes was saying, tell your buyers if they were looking for a market where competition was low, interest rates were low, and sellers were willing to give concessions, this is the time right now. If they wait till the spring or summer, that might not be the case.
Right. And there's a couple, if I could add on to that,
Yeah.
maybe you've heard of Warren Buffett. Yeah.
My grandpa.
Yeah, his favorite line is buy when everyone's fearful and sell when everyone's buying it. And everyone, the sellers are kind of fearful at the moment, right? So, tell your buyers that it's really the things are kind of on sale and the wrong end of of real estate ownership. And I think we're gonna make some good money this year.
Let's go. Let's go. What's your phone number, Rodney, in case anybody wants to?
Sure, please. You can call, text 916-223-2775.
Boom, it's in the chat. Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, let's get to the man of the hour, Mr. Jeff Wallace. Jeff, let's make you co-host. Everybody, Jeff is with a company you may have heard of, you may not have heard of, named Curbio. I know that name may engender some mixed emotions with people in the room, but Jeff is here to set the record straight and kind of just, for those of you who haven't heard about Curbio, tell you a little bit about it. And for those of you who have and are working with them, to give you an opportunity to ask some questions. So Jeff, take it away.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Johnny. And thank you everyone for having me today. I will, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over just a couple of things about Curbio, what we do, how, the sausage is made a little bit, and then we'll open it up for some questions. So I'll go through about 15 slides or so, probably take about 10 minutes. And then, and then we'll open it up. So let me share my screen. Give me 1 second here. All right. Get this slideshow started. So my name is Jeff Wallace. I am the director of our enterprise partnerships here at Curbio. So I oversee our entire partnership with EXP. But we have a little bit of different partnership with the Made for More, and I'll go through that a little bit later. But what we do is we are the leading pre-listing home improvement company across the country right now. So it's a fix now, pay later model where there's no upfront costs for the homeowner for any of those pre-listing renovations that we want to do to either make the home show ready or truly maximize, the equity of the home and help the homeowner truly capitalize on what they have. And again, any costs involved all just come out of escrow, and we'll get to that in a little bit. So here's what we know, right? We know the market's still competitive, especially as you just heard, rates are going down. So there are, a little bit more buyers that are getting a little bit more excited. I'm sure you guys are feeling that too. But regardless, no matter what, right? Every home is going to need a little something, and if you're not offering some sort of concierge service like this, there's someone else that will. And we know that agents who are offering a pre-listing concierge like this are winning 47% more listings than those who aren't. So remember that just by offering this, not saying that people even need to use it, but by going out and saying, hey, we have this partnership, or our team has, this service we can offer you. By just offering this, you're going to look stellar to your clients, right? So, last year and the year before, it was complete chaos on the sell side and the buy side for that matter. And those days are gone though, right? Like, no more bidding wars, waived inspections, all that, pretty much not happening anymore. What we also know though, is that right now about 80% of the homes in the US are 20 years or older, and 75% of the buyers are looking for modern finishes, right? So clearly there's a disconnect between what buyers want and what actually sits out there on the market. So what's going to sell, right? How are we going to get our clients' homes sold? And that is really doing those smart pre-listing updates that are going to maximize the listing price, maximize the profit for the sellers, and make you look like an absolute genius. So sometimes you may think that we are, here to do remodels, but truly what we do is almost anything. And we want you to think of us as if you went out and hired a team of repair people and contractors and a whole bunch of handymen to do anything that you need on any of your listings, because that's really what we can do. So something as simple as like changing out some doorknobs, and that's all you want to do, we're happy to do it. Obviously, if we really want to maximize equity, we're going to refresh the kitchen or the bathroom, change out some countertops. Great, we'll do that. If you want to do full-on remodels, tear down walls, redesign the house, we have a team that can even help drop new design plans. We take care of permitting. We take care of everything. So we're completely turnkey, right? So once the project starts, you, the agent, you can be as hands-on or hands-off as you want. So if anyone in here has done this before or gone out and helped your client do some repairs or upgrade the home before you go list it, which I'm sure a lot of you have, you probably know how much of a hassle it can be to manage the work, schedule it, making sure payments are on time, things like that. We take care of everything. You can truly be as hands-on or hands-off as you want. And we're able to take care of everything because we're a nationally venture-backed company. We're doing thousands and thousands of projects a year, obviously powered by a lot of tech behind the scenes. But what that does, it helps us to kind of operate in a completely different way that really hasn't happened before, where we're leveraging all the resources we have internally to make sure that we're completing projects 65% faster than the typical contractor. And we have complete transparency around the project from beginning to end. And I'll talk to that in a moment. And then, of course, as I won't shy away from, it is a fixed now pay at closing model. So there's no upfront cost to the homeowner, so much that we try to remove every possible barrier for a homeowner to work with us. So there's no credit checks, no income checks, there's no interest, no liens on the property. We don't do any of that. And I know it sounds crazy, but that's truly how we operate. There's no gotchas, there's no gimmicks or anything like that. We just try to make it as easy as possible for every homeowner to work with us. If you're going to remember anything from today, I would suggest it is a couple bullet points on this page. And that is the first line right here, where projects on average that we work on, we see an average 28% increase to the listing price, right? That's huge. So think about it this way, right? Imagine you go in, you help a client who they could, currently, if they were to try to sell their house as is, be about $500,000. But if you maybe do $20,000 worth of work, upgrade the kitchen, put some new countertops in, maybe paint, you think you could sell it for $620,000, right? Great. That's typically what we see. But what's more important is imagine what happens once you've completed that process. Not only was it completely turnkey, not only did you make a bunch of money for the homeowner, but then you can go out and farm that area and everyone's going to look, all the neighbors around are going to know, hey, I know that house didn't look like that just like 3 months ago. What did you do? How did you do that? And you can farm that out to everyone in the area, and definitely you'll get results back from that. And the other thing on here, which will sound logical in a second, but the bottom bullet point, where our projects that we complete, they're selling for 50% faster than other listings on the market, right? You shouldn't be going in pricing your properties, just based on what the homeowner says. And I know that's hard to do sometimes. I'm an agent myself. I have my license. I've gone through this process with Curbio even quite a few times before I even joined the company. But price reductions shouldn't be a listing strategy, right? We should not be looking at that as how we're going to operate 2 months down the road. You should avoid that, right? And how do you avoid that? By putting the work into the property and maximizing the equity before it even goes on the market, right? Making the home turnkey, that is what buyers want. It's going to attract the most buyers. And of course, if you're attracting a lot of buyers, you're going to increase demand, which is going to make it sell faster. So of course, it makes sense that they're selling for less time. But imagine being able to also potentially farm out things like, hey, my last 2 listings were sat on the market for only 12 days. The average market days on market right now is 47 days. Just putting that on a postcard itself, farming that out, putting that on social, you're going to get a lot of feedback from that. This slide is not all inclusive of everything we can do. It's really just to kind of get you thinking a little bit. But truly, there's really almost nothing we won't do. I'd say the only thing we won't do is pour new foundation. So we'll repair cracked foundation. We can fix foundation other ways, but we just won't pour new foundation. But outside of that, there's truly nothing we won't do. I don't want to dive too much into the weeds of, our entire operating process, but what we found is once agents use us once, they end up coming back to us quite a bit. And the feedback we've gotten is, I wish I would have started using you sooner. And we said, okay, great. Like, why didn't you? And the answer is because, and it makes total sense. If you're going to go out there and you're going to recommend something to your client, that's your reputation on the line. I get it. That makes total sense, right? So why would you recommend something that you may have never done, right? And so on top of that, if you haven't gone through the process, you may not confidently talk about it as much as maybe you feel like you should or you could, right? And so people kind of, it's like, hey, I don't know what's going on. I don't know the entire process. So it's hard to speak confidently about it. And I get that. So with that said, I'm going to spend about 2 minutes on kind of the process, just so you kind of get what it looks like, so you can set the right expectation for your client. Because some of you may have clients this week that you're like, hey, this is great, this is a great fit, we should definitely go down this path. So the first step is whether you want to get a request an estimate from us before you go on a listing appointment, which we can talk through strategy. There's a lot of our experienced partners are doing that. They'll drive by the property and they'll see, hey, this property needs a little bit of work on the front and most likely needs to be clean on the inside. So what they'll do is they'll get a request for an estimate on those two things before they even get to the listing appointment, even if they've never been inside the house. But they'll do that so that way it gives them a segue into kind of talking about Curbio and what we do. It also kind of is this idea of like, hey, if they're interviewing multiple agents, there's a lot of agents that go in and they'll sit down in their listing presentation and they'll talk about all these great things that they're going to do. But if you can be that agent that comes in and says, look at what I've already done for you. Look at what I've already gotten. I've already gotten some quotes on what I saw on the front. And here's, what else we could potentially do, because you told me you wanted to sell your house like, John sold up the street, but you also told me that your house doesn't look like that. So what can we do to get us there? So anyways, whether you get a request for us before you go into that listing appointment, or of course after, what you're going to do is request an estimate through, I'll put the link up here at the end. And the first person you'll talk to on our team is a home improvement consultant. And so when you fill out the form, it's going to ask you some simple questions like you, the agent, your name, email, phone number, and then the property address. We don't contact the homeowner. I'll get into that in a little bit, but we just need that for pricing and square footage, things like that. And then we'll ask you what you're thinking about doing to the property. If you provide enough information on there, that home improvement consultant can get you a general estimate back right away. When I say right away, I mean within one business day, 24 hours. If you don't provide enough information, or they have some questions in terms of like kind of, what you're talking about in the stuff that you want to do, they'll give you a call and they'll ask you, and then they'll provide that same general estimate to you. Then you, the agent, you'll take that back to your homeowner, talk with the homeowner and figure out, hey, do we want to take the next step? Does this kind of look like the path we want to go down? And if the answer is yes, great, let us know. Then what happens, our home improvement consultant will schedule someone to come out and do a Matterport of the property. And the reason for this is instead of scheduling 6 different subs and a GC to come out and all these different people to inconvenience the homeowner and provide all these different estimates, that Matterport is effectively our eyes and ears. So once we get that Matterport done, and look, just to be clear, if we're going to do like a full-on gut job, like someone's going to go out and physically walk the property, but a lot of times it's going to be a Matterport. But once we get that Matterport back, then we do a virtual walkthrough with you, the homeowner and the home improvement consultant, and you talk through and make sure, hey, these are all the things that we want to do, and you guys all together get it dialed in so everyone's on the same page. Then that home improvement consultant is going to provide a fixed price final estimate back to you and the homeowner. And if the homeowner wants to move forward, once they sign that contract, which our contract is with the homeowner, not you, the agent, you are completely out of the loop here. You are not liable for anything. So you are good and in the clear there. Once the agent signs, once the homeowner signs that contract with us, we can start work within 2 to 10 days. And if for some reason you want to schedule it out further in the future, we can schedule it out further in the future. Just to, again, kind of get your minds thinking about some of the stuff we can do. Basic listing prep, right? If you just need a cleaning, we'll clean the house. That's fine. But touch-up painting, things like that, we're happy to do it. Refreshes, right? Like this is where typically you're going to see a lot of the really big ROIs come into place, where it's like, hey, doing $20,000, $25,000 of work and replacing cabinets in the kitchen and the bathrooms and maybe painting the house, that's going to really drive up price for the homeowners. And then, of course, I mentioned this earlier, full-on remodels, right? If we're going to knock down walls, we can do it. Refinish any basements, we want to do that. As I mentioned, we have an in-house design team that can help draw plans. We take care of permitting. We do it all. Some questions that come up quite a bit are about materials. So we have an in-house design team, and they curate materials year-round. And there's all sorts of things that go into it. But nonetheless, we know what those smart, profit-driven updates and materials are, from colors to types to all these things. They're above builder grade. We even have a luxury line. So, just recently we did a $1 million remodel in Beverly Hills. one in La Jolla, and then we do them all the time. So we have a luxury line as well. And they're in stock. We don't have supply chain issues or anything like that. It's one of the ways that we're able to actually make sure to complete projects, on time and faster than most other contractors. And what's also important is that, hey, some of the materials that we have for example, Southern California aren't necessarily going to be the same that we have for Boston, for example, right? There's different geographies command different types of demand from the buyers in those locations. Once you start a project, you'll have a dedicated project manager, and they're the one who are going to oversee obviously everything. So from the materials, labor, permitting, all that stuff like that. And with that, you have our project dashboard, our communication hub, where you, the homeowner, the project manager, and the home improvement consultant, everyone has eyes on the project dashboard, which includes basically everything, right? Scheduling, material selections for the homeowner, any updates, pictures that the project manager is sending over, things like that. It's all in there so that everyone's on the same page and everything stays on schedule. This is a snapshot of what we call our listing toolkit. I'll get this over to Johnny and team later on today if he doesn't already have it, to be able to send out and link to everyone. But this request came in quite a bit last year where people said, hey, I would love to be able to kind of talk about local pricing if we can. And we were a little reluctant at first. And here's the reason why. Home improvement projects, they're like fingerprints, right? Like there's no two that are alike, right? Two bathroom remodels are going to be completely different costs, different things involved. But we got to a point where it's like, hey, if we can at least provide a gauge, educate people on how to talk about it, and provide like a general, like, hey, here's kind of where you can think about putting any investment that you want to into the home to really upgrade it and drive the most ROI. So again, use this as a gauge, not as a very exact price sheet, if you will, but it is our way of trying to be transparent and saying, hey, here's kind of where you should kind of this range of where you should be looking and thinking about the different projects. I've only got 3 more slides here, so bear with me, and they're all quick. Because of the partnership that we have with you guys, from now through the end of June at least, and hopefully throughout the rest of the year, we are able to provide a $500 homeowner credit on all projects. So this will be in the form of a gift card back to the homeowner for $500, but effectively a $500 homeowner credit on any size project. So it doesn't matter how big, it doesn't matter how small of a project, we're going to give them, if they're working with us, $500. So it's kind of that use it or lose it. So even if you've got a listing coming up and you don't need to do anything, or you don't even want to use Curbio, in theory, you could, if you say, hey, we could change out a couple doorknobs, you could use this credit to that, and we would do it. Obviously, we don't want to do just that, but the idea here is if we can provide this to you, we want to, number one, try to help make you look great. But then also it gets you talking about Curbio, right? We understand that. And it's marketing, right? Like we're all in the marketing business. We're all in the brand building business. And this is one of the ways that we have seen is really great at being able to build brand. At the same time, it is a true win-win-win for everyone, right? Obviously, the homeowner wins because they're going to get hopefully a turnkey property that's going to maximize some equity in their home. You win because you look great, because you're a genius, and you're helping the homeowner make more money. The brokerage wins because you're doing a great job increasing listing prices and winning more listings. And of course, we win because we get to do more business, right? So it truly is like this joint effort. But if we're able to make sure that everyone knows that on every listing you have this $500 credit, the idea is hopefully that you talk about it in a way that you look for ways to maximize equity in the home. But look, if for some reason all you want to do is get it cleaned, or you want to swap out some cabinetry handles or something like that, great, like that's fine too. But definitely use it, think about it, talk about it with your homeowners. We want nothing more than that to happen, of course. Last, anyone who submits a request, if we get at least 10 requests, which should not be hard at all with this group, but if we get at least 10 over the next month, we will raffle off one of those new Apple Watch Ultras to the group of people who submitted requests for estimate. And again, that's not saying that you've got to start a project. Just submitting an estimate request, you would qualify, or at least if you get it back from our team, you've got to talk to them and get an estimate request back from them. But nonetheless, this should not be hard at all. Most teams and partners that we work with blow this out of the water, especially with that homeowner credit. Hopefully you talk about this on every single listing. But to go and submit an estimate on that form, which again is super simple, it'll take you all of like a minute. You can just go either, hold your phone up, take a snapshot, or just go to curbio.com/made-for-more. I would just bookmark that link every time. So anytime you're going into a listing presentation or after you've met with the homeowner, come back there, get a quote from us. So that way we can hopefully help you and the homeowner maximize the equity in their home. And hopefully everyone walks out extremely, extremely happy. That's it. I think I went a little longer. Sorry about that, but I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's answer any questions anyone has.
All right, yeah, go ahead, Barry. Or it's not Barry. Rodney. I know. Very still in the sun.
First wins.
Go ahead, Rodney.
Yeah, probably the most obvious question that I would imagine everyone has, what happens if escrow falls out or they decide not to sell the house?
Yeah, it's a great question. This, believe it or not, almost never happens. But our contract with the homeowner states that they have up to 12 months to pay us back. There's no interest. We still don't put a lien on the property or anything like that. That's just part of the contract. So if it for some reason falls out of escrow or the home doesn't sell, that's it. It's really that simple. And it doesn't happen that often because again, we're putting projects out there where the home is turnkey, and it's what buyers want and it's what's driving demand. And so, we typically don't experience. I think it's happened like 2 times in the thousands and thousands of projects that we've done.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Hermes.
I have 2 questions. One, do you perform contingency related repairs when after the home inspection? Do you perform the repairs based on home inspections?
Oh, go ahead. Finish. You got a second part to that?
Question, do you remodel prior or after the sale?
So, all right, I'll answer that second part first. So right now, we are focused primarily on pre-listing home renovations. So post-sale, we don't really get into that. And part of the reason is really because there's such low-hanging fruit right now, especially in this market, that if we as a company stay focused on our core value prop, which is pre-listing home improvements, fix now, pay later, that is exactly where we want to stay and be absolutely the best at and blow any potential competition out of the water should they try. Now, your piece about the inspection, I'll share this, but one of the things that we've got a lot of requests for about 1.5 years ago, and we put together some internal resources on is this inspection tool, where we haven't marketed it yet. And again, it's because we don't have a ton of resources behind it, again, because our core value proposition of pre-listing home improvements is where our focus is. But we do have an inspection tool to where if you send over your inspection, usually within 24 hours, we'll be able to get you back a line item list and costs for all the repairs that are on there, which you can then leverage with, if you're on the buy side, you can leverage with the seller, or if you're on the sell side, you can use it as leverage as well. And we can also be that third party to come in and actually take care of any potential repairs. At that point, our contract would have to be with the seller no matter what, because it's still their property. So for us to work on the property, we've got to, our contract has to be with them. But it's definitely something that I believe Q2, we're going to be, we've been hiring like crazy to support it, but we're not there yet. So if everyone on this call starts submitting inspection requests 3 times a day, we might get a little behind on that, but it is there and it does exist. So if you have questions on it, feel free to, you can email me directly. It's jwallace@curbio.com. I'll put my email in the chat as well. Yeah.
Cool. And then there's a couple questions in the chat box. Joanna was asking, how long does the average refresh take? And then also, how long does the average remodel take?
There's no real timeline or way to answer that question because, as I mentioned earlier, right, like each refresh is going to be dramatically different than the next, right? If your version of a refresh is swapping out vanities and redoing tile in all bathrooms and the kitchen, like that's going to take longer than someone else's refresh of just replacing the countertops in their kitchen, right? Not doing anything else. So, I mean, the last property, I'll give you an example. Last property I personally worked on, as a real estate agent, it took 3.5 weeks, and they did what did we do? We did carpet in the upstairs, painted the entire house, and refinished and repainted all the cabinets. That took 2.5 weeks. But again, it can vary. But the good news is that going into before the homeowner signs the contract, you'll know exactly what that timeline will be. It will be in there in terms of expectations. And now look, of course, things happen. Homeowners tend to always want to, I mean, I can't tell you how many, the percentage of change orders we get during project happens a lot because homeowners all of a sudden get a little bit more comfortable. They see the work that's getting done and they decide they want to do a little bit more to really maximize the equity. So that happens quite a bit. But you'll see the timeline in the contract when it's put in front of the seller.
Cool. And then Travis also asked, what was the promo code for that $500 credit?
At this moment, there's no promo code. It is just going to be automatic, and we'll be able to track that through when you submit the estimate request through the curbio.com/made-for-more, which I'll put in here as well. It should automatically be applied in there for the homeowner to be able to receive that.
Beautiful.
Yep.
And then it looks like Claudia also has had her hand raised for a while.
Jeff, if I were to send you pictures of a interior of a house, would you be able to give me a guesstimate or? Yeah,
so don't send them to me because I don't draw those estimates up. But yeah, when you submit that estimate request in the form, be as detailed as you can, and then you'll get an automatic email back from our team saying, "Hey, got your email. We'll get back to you within 1 business day, within 24 hours." And please feel free to send us over any more information. At that point, that's when you send over pictures. And obviously you would have already written out a few things saying, "Hey, I think we need to do X, Y, and Z." And hopefully they can, with all of that, they'll be able to provide you with some general numbers. They might call you to ask you more questions if it's not clear, but yeah, pictures help tremendously.
Thanks.
Just thanks for being here, Jeff. Just a few questions.
Sure.
Do you work with investors at all where you're remunerated through improved rents? I'm guessing that might be a no, but maybe a yes would be, do you ever do work for refis as opposed to sales? And if so, do you cater the remodel to, what an appraiser would be looking for rather than an end buyer?
Great questions. So regarding the investor piece, we absolutely work with investors. But again, our core focus at this moment, and there's a lot of chatter about all the things you just asked about, just so you know, internally. But right now, we're predominantly focused on homeowners who have an intent to sell the property, right? So similarly, investors who are looking to sell the property, we're happy to work with them. Now, flippers, for example, we can work with flippers. Again, we use that calculation of 80%. We look at 80% of the ARV less any other liens, mortgages on the property, right? So there are some flippers who use no money of their own and get hard money loans to fund 100% of the purchase. If our team hears the words hard money loan, at this time, you're going to set off alarm bells and they'll say, we don't work with hard money loans. And that is, at this moment, we don't work with hard money loans. But if, your investor, for example, or flippers, using their own money and they're putting in, 50% of their money and, just getting a short-term loan from the bank, we can absolutely work with them. It just, as long as there's some equity in the home. Now, as opposed to the other piece where you asked about refis and appraisals and stuff like that, we haven't gone down that path yet. But there's definitely some talk in there because there were quite a few requests that came in specifically around refis Q3 last year. So, and they continue to come in, but it's something that's been on the radar for this year potentially. But that stuff can all change, so I don't want to make any promises there.
Cool.
Can you repeat that eligibility formula?
Yeah, so when we look at when someone comes to us with a project, right, we always make sure that there's equity in the home. And the calculation we use is 80% of the after repair value, less any other liens and mortgages on the property. And we look at you, the agent, to drive that ARV, right? Like while we have an idea, so you can't fool us, but we're also looking at you to guide the ship, right? Because you're the expert, you know what's selling for what on that side of town versus the other side of town, right? We all know that the Zestimate isn't perfect, right? So we can have our pricing model, for example, and we can do some comps if we wanted to, but we look at you. You guys are the experts. We want to know what you think that ARV is.
So does your project cost need to fit under the 80% ARV, or you'll do it above 80 with your cost?
Yes. So for example, let's say we're looking at a property where currently it's 800 grand. If you were to sell it as is, we ask the question, we say, hey, what is the as is list price, right? And let's say you're like, it's probably 800 grand. We say, great. What's the, given all the stuff you want to do to the property, what's the after repair value? What would you be able to sell it for? He's like, oh, it would be like $1 million. We'd say, okay, great. So what's 80% of the AR of the after repair value in that scenario? It's still 800,000, and maybe they've got 500K in mortgage still. So that gives us a budget of 300K to work with.
So you're under the 80% ARV. That's what, yeah, not above it. Yeah, got it.
John.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Yeah, Barry.
A couple of questions for you. I'm assuming, I have to assume at your cost, you're getting paid from the contractors that are doing the work. Is that right?
Yeah, so we are the licensed and insured general contractor on every project. So we actually make our money the same way a typical general contractor does. But the reason we're able to be so competitive when it comes to pricing and materials and quality, there's a few reasons for that. The first is we go out and we hire all the GCs as salaried W-2 employees. But on top of that, we don't have to make as much margin on every single project like your typical GC does. That's their livelihood. They need to make a really big spread on the work that they do. We don't. We're a venture-backed company. We're doing thousands of projects across the country. We buy our materials in bulk, so we're able to get some savings there, right? We operate in a very efficient manner, so our margins are super thin in a way so that we can keep those costs down for the homeowners. So when you get an estimate back from us, like let's say you get an estimate back for paint, I'm just throwing out numbers, so don't go crazy, but let's say you ask for a paint job on the house, it's $4,000. That $4,000 is inclusive of everything. It's inclusive of the materials, the labor, the project management, everything. And there's no like extra fee that we have in there. Our costs are effectively baked into all the pricing we put out there.
So when you enter an area like Sacramento, for existence, do you have a team in place that you work with before you start doing deals in that area, or you stand up your team while you're doing the deals?
So it's a great question. Before we launch any new market, so right now we're in 68 metros across the country. And when we enter a metro, we start with basically typically a 40-ish mile radius around city center. And once we do that, we just keep expanding out from there. But before we launch a new market, boy, do we go through quite a process there, because like I mentioned, we go out and we have to hire our general contractors and project managers in every single area. They're salaried, they're W-2 employees. And in order to, number one, we've got to find the best ones. And then we have to overpay them because we want them to work for us. So we pay them quite nicely because we want the best ones working for us. So we go out and we do that. And then our subs, they go through the same vetting process that the GCs do. We don't hire them on as salaried W-2 employees because again, their project timelines are typically, a couple days here and there. But we're able to attract great subs across the country, specifically because two reasons. Number one, it's consistent work. And number two, we pay out direct deposits. So they're never chasing people down, and we pay them as soon as the work's completed, not when the project, closes escrow, for example. And so we get all that dialed in before we launch any new market. And then once we're in there, we're constantly trying to kind of expand that footprint out now, right? And as we're there, we're always trying to find, new contractors, new vendors, things like that. We've got a massive team that specifically focuses on that piece. And if for some reason, and if you have any vendors that you ever want to refer to us, which all of our best hires have all been, not all, but a lot of really great hires that we have come from referrals. But you can send them to vendors@curbio.com, which I'll put in the chat here as well. Our team loves getting emails of referrals of potential vendors and subs and GCs and stuff like that.
So, you mentioned two things that I wanted to question on. One is you said project manager and general contractor. Are your project managers general contractors, or because you said you hire your general contractors?
Yeah.
So the guy
Same.
working
Sorry.
here in the
Sorry
area
about
is
that.
project manager or general contractor?
Same. Our GCs are the project managers. The terms internally versus externally. My apologies there.
Okay. That margin you talked about. Talked about you guys run really thin margins. And I'm assuming that you're in the company, but do you have an idea of what those margins are? Generally, a contractor, and we have a general contractor in the room, usually runs a 15 to 20% margin. Are you saying that you guys are running about that margin?
Well, our margins are different for different things. We have more people that are involved, right, along the way than like a contractor does, right? And so with that, we make it so that our margins our pricing is competitive with the local market, so much that we have a price match guarantee. So if you ever get something back from us that's like, you're like, hey, I got a quote, for if I give you a quote for paint for 4,000, you've got one for 3,600, send it to us. We'll match it up and make sure it's apples to apples, because a lot of times that other quote from your cousin isn't apples to apples, but nonetheless, we'll match it up. And if it's close, typically within 20-25%, we'll be able to match it. Now, if our team sends you a quote for paint for $4,000 and you send us something back to price match that's $800 for the same thing, they're not going to match that price. They're whoever it is, the quality of work probably isn't great. They're just going to say that's not going to happen. But typically, if it's within 20-25%, they'll typically match it. And like I said, we try to get out in front of it to make sure that pricing is competitive in every area. And we do that as part of our process before we launch any market through a lot of different ways. But yeah.
Jeff, I'd like to connect with you after off this call offline.
Sure.
And discuss a couple of issues with the ongoing project.
Definitely. Give me a call me, shoot me an email.
Thank you. Thank you for your help.
Jeff, are you in the Sacramento area now?
I'm not. I'm in Southern California. I do have one other person that's up there in I believe Lincoln. So they're nearby. But I'm not up there. But I'm from the Bay Area, so I know Sac pretty well.
Cool. Hey, Jeff, in the chat box, I see that Steve asked, do we get a copy of the presentation, either as PowerPoint or brochures? And I know, can you also share about the online, like social media marketing that we can get from you guys?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll make sure to include a couple links that I'll get over to Johnny here. And what you can do with a lot of that, you can definitely find some already. If you go to I'll put it in here, go.curbio.com/exp. If you go there, you'll find some marketing materials there. I'll help send some direct links, but there you'll be able to see things like one-pagers, links to some social media templates, before and afters, things including your listing presentation, that listing toolkit that I referenced. All that will be there and available for you guys to download, customize, and use as your own.
Beautiful. And then you mentioned sending vendors, like are those just general contractors, or are you looking for handyman as well?
All the above. We're always looking to find great people to partner with. So both GCs and subs, handyman, everything in between.
All right.
And would they need to bring their own general, or do you already provide that? They can just sub under your general?
No, just any subs is fine. Like we talk to them and they go through, like I said, this same somewhat crazy vetting process. We want to make sure that the craftsmanship is good and that they're reliable, all these things,
In terms of paperwork that they would need to have, though, it's just basically their own established entity, or I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think so. It's all good. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think they do need that, but just check with that team at the vendors@curbio.com, and they'll let you know if there's other extra paperwork they need.
Thanks.
Cool. All right. Any other questions for Jeff? Was this good? Is this something that you guys are going to use on your listing presentations? Did you get value out of this? Go ahead. If you're here, yeah, give him a round of applause then.
Yes.
Mariah loves it. Mariah loves it. Okay. So Jeff, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate seeing you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Again, I think 2 things if I leave you with is number 1, 3 things. Definitely try to help your homeowners maximize the equity in their home, right? If now more than ever, we have that opportunity to really make yourself stand out from the rest of the pack. Use that $500 homeowner credit. Again, there's no minimum or maximum to use it. Just make sure you use it, because otherwise I'm not sure why you wouldn't. And then in order to submit a request for an estimate, just go to curbio.com/made-for-more. That's probably the easiest way to do it. As well as that'll get you in, if we get enough estimates, which again, I can't imagine we won't, we'll raffle off that Apple Watch Ultra for someone, hopefully in the next month. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate it. And by all means, feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Jeff.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll give him another one. All right, real quick, let me just I forgot to mention earlier, there's one more event coming up. I don't remember the date. When's the call jam?
The 25th.
The 25th. So it's Wednesday. It's the day before the lead generation course that's taking place at PCAR and the day before Mix and Mingle. If you are interested, if you're on a team, if you're not with EXP, we do not care. We want to provide an opportunity for agents to come together, create a little bit of community, and make money. So on the 25th from 4 to 5, I'm looking over at Crystal, I'm not entirely sure. We just decided this like 15 minutes ago. But so January 25th from 4 to 5, we're gonna hop on Zoom, just keep an eye out on the Eventbrite. And what we're gonna do is for everybody, there'll be a little script training before, so we'll provide scripts and stuff in case you don't have any. But from 4 to 5, whoever stays on the entire call jam will be entered in to win a raffle. We'll give it away right then and there for a $100 gift card. So keep an eye out. So you're hopefully making money. You're doing things you're supposed to be doing, and you're getting a little opportunity to get an extra $100 in the process. We're also going to have a lender on there during the call. You can always transfer your business to your lender of choice. But if you want to have like a warm transfer, where we will have a lender standing by, the lenders are going to rotate throughout the week. So if you have a lender recommendation, send them our way. So any questions on that before we say goodbye? No, we're good. Who's going to come? Who'd be interested in that? Valerie's coming. I don't know your name. Haley's coming. All right, my team's coming. Hopefully we'll see you guys there. All right, have a great week all.
Bye, thanks.
Great. See you, Tom.